Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live Fantastic Four Spoilercast. I'm your host, Captain Logan. Thanks very much for being here. If you are broadcasting live, we are using the same chat box we usually use if you would like to help direct the conversation and chat with each other. That's the blue chat box. It's in the description of the video. It's also the same thing we're using in the Crisis chat and during the Crisis video that we did just a little while ago. If you're watching this after the fact, thanks for being here. Good to see or good to be seen, I suppose. Now let me introduce our Spoilercast panel for this evening. It's Dan Torrey!
Hey, everybody.
It's the Curious Low. It's maybe the Curious Low. Okay, Curious Low is here, trying to be here. Hopefully she's able to pop in. And it's Beware the Steve Baxi!
Hello, everyone.
Hey everybody, thanks very much for being here. We're going to chat spoilers now for Fantastic Four, so this will be no holds barred, talking about every nook and cranny, everything we want to talk about. As I always say with these, this is not a... Curious Low, are you there? Okay, well anyway, are you guys still with me?
We're
Yes.
here.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. Anyway, so moving right along. Hopefully, Lowe's able to join us. We're going to be talking about every nook and cranny in Fantastic Four. This is a full-blown spoiler conversation, and as I always like to say, some folks sometimes think that we nitpick a little bit. We like to talk about a lot of different things and get really into the some of the little stuff, some of the details and stuff. So bear with us as we do that. We'll talk about the big stuff. We'll kind of get into the small stuff. And I want to start with Dan because. Well, everybody knows Steve hates this movie, and I'm just kidding. And I've said my piece quite a bit already on a couple different shows. I was on Aaron Dicer's podcast the other day talking about this, and I also did a How We Felt About with Vince. So let's start with Dan and get Dan's immediate reaction out of the way. Dan, give me, as we always do, a best thing and a worst thing, and just your overall kind of feel with this movie right after you walked out of the theater. Go ahead.
The movie, I don't think it's as terrible as everyone's making it out to be. I actually found some things in the movie to enjoy. I really liked the cast, and I thought that there was, in the movie, signs that it could have been something really interesting, but it's very clear that whatever this project was supposed to be at the beginning, it was aborted very close to the beginning, and there was a lot. The film, as it was released, was kind of a mess. I'm not saying it's a good movie or anything, but I liked some of the scenes that were directed really well when the cast was having fun. I thought all of them were nearly perfect. I liked the guy who played Dr. Doom quite a bit too. I didn't really mind the way that they changed the way he looked either. I thought in certain places it looked cool. I think that the movie was sort of trying to nobly be a movie that was developing these characters' relationships before they get superpowers so they could feel like a real family in a way that they didn't feel like that in the previous movies because they weren't really all that fleshed out character-wise. And the weird thing about this movie is there's like scenes where that kind of happens, but it's the scenes that lead up to their thoughts about each other changing or being different from scene to scene aren't shown. Like, there's a lot of character moments that are just not existent in the movie, and when you go back and watch the trailers for it, it's evident that a lot of things were cut out. Like, there's scenes with Ben Grimm playing baseball, there's scenes with Franklin Storm, his speeches, the entire speeches that are in that narrate the trailers are cut out of the movie. So I think it's very evident that whatever happened here, I don't know if it's, more the studio or the director's fault. I can't say because I wasn't on the production. I don't know what happened. It's all rumors and hearsay from both sides, so I can't really comment on that. But I was just disappointed because I think the idea of what the movie was trying to be could have been really cool. And I wasn't... the movie was kind of about exploration and science fiction, and that's what, and family, and that's what Fantastic Four is always has been about. And I really like the Fantastic Four. The dark tone of it, I think, could have worked for the story they were going to tell. It just didn't really work out, which is unfortunate. I don't know. I found this, somewhat watchable because of the performances and things like that. I had some fun. I don't understand the perception that this is like the worst superhero movie ever. I mean, this isn't even the worst Fantastic Four movie, people. I mean, have you seen the Roger Corman one? It's much less watchable than this. But I don't know. That's the way I feel about it.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
So when I was in the theater, and movies do this now where you get the title at the very end, and I was never a fan of that, but you get the big Fantastic Four title at the end, and you're left to like noodle and think about what you just saw. And the moment that came up in the theater, my physical reaction was this: "Oh, this is awful." That's literally what I did in the theater. It's really bad. I don't know if it's worse than Rise of the Silver Surfer, but it's up there. Dan, I'm with you that there's so many moments in this movie where I can see the potential. I love this idea that because Doom is now like connected physically to another dimension, there are questions about bodily autonomy as it relates to different dimensions and how people can be altered simply by interacting with other environments. So it takes that whole multi-dimensional concept and makes it even more sci-fi than it's ever been. There were so many moments in this movie where I can see that this would have made a better idea, and this made it a better idea, and this is here and that's here. And you could write like 8 movies out of just individual scenes that are done well, but the whole thing doesn't come together for me. It's 100 minutes. I don't need movies to be 2 hours long. It's fine that it's 100 minutes, but it really does feel like there's a first act, there's a giant skipped moment, which is the second act. There's a third act that acts like it's acts 4, 5, and 6 at the same time. Like it's trying to cram into so many things at once at that last minute. Doom doesn't even show up until like the 80-minute mark, and it's a 100-minute movie. That's ridiculous. I think this is really bad. I think it's awful. I don't think it's the worst superhero film ever made. I think there's lots of things about it that are good. I really like the direction that this could have taken. I actually thought this looked fantastic when I saw the trailers. But in execution, I don't think much of anything worked. And it's more about the potential that gets me than what's actually there.
You guys all still here?
I think so.
Okay. I fell out. Were you guys able to keep going when I fell out?
I think so.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I have no idea what else Steve said, but I fell out. My internet's acting weird right now, so I may cut out here and there. You guys feel free to just keep going on, and I'll catch up. I don't know where we're at with Steve. Is Steve done talking, or?
Yeah.
I probably missed something brilliant, didn't I? You probably said like the coolest thing you've ever said on any show we've ever done, and I didn't even get to see it.
No, that was the Killing Joke video. No,
Yes, it was.
No, the main thing is just I think the potential for this movie is a lot better than actually watching the movie.
Okay, Lo, are you with us? Curious Lo is still having a difficult time getting in here with us, I suppose. Okay. Man, I was disappointed, and of course I've said this. I was really rooting for this movie, man. Rooting for it hard. I felt like people judged it prematurely. I didn't think it was fair. I think that the backlash is possibly worse than it would have been because of that. I also think the backlash is worse than it would have been had we never had a Fantastic Four movie before, because this feels like a first attempt. One of the things that's weird about it is that there are some things here and there that look like it's like trying to improve upon things that have been done in previous movies, but previous attempts at this, which is weird because we're on the third one. Maybe the fourth time will be the charm. But we're in a place where it kind of feels like it's almost like it's unaware of superhero movie history at large now. It just falls into so many of the same pratfalls that a lot of early things did when they were kind of unsure and trepidatious about doing the superhero thing, and that it's trying to be like really dark and serious and moody. And what's weird about it is I like the tone a lot. I think it totally works. I just think that the characterizations aren't really there. I feel like the characters aren't likable. I was having a very difficult time caring about anybody in the piece or even wanting to be there. I just couldn't like find anything to latch onto much of the time. There were ideas here and there that were dropped where I was like, oh, that's cool, I wish you'd run with that. But after a while, it just wasn't holding my attention. It was a slog for me. It felt longer than 100 minutes. My best thing is I love the look and the overall tone of this thing. The idea of doing a really hard sci-fi version is really cool. I really liked, and so I'm really with Dan there. I liked the. I liked what Josh Trank was talking about with his original vision, which was let's do, like I said, this really like hard sci-fi version of it. A lot of people are saying that the problem with it is that it's not Fantastic Four enough. I disagree with that entirely. I don't think that's the problem at all. Especially when you look at like Ultimate FF, which is a little bit of a moodier and sometimes even more somber thing. The scene that really got me, that I got excited and thought we were gonna maybe build on it and go someplace with it, was when they get their powers and it looks like a really horrific thing. That felt new, that felt fresh, and that felt like a really cool way to go with it. And again, I don't think it's too dark. I don't think it's like, that was the thing they sold me on. I was surprised by it. Because like I said, people keep saying, oh, it needs to embrace the spirit of Fantastic Four. As Dan said, the spirit of Fantastic Four is exploration. I feel like it's got that. Should we have gone there via like drunken drunken interdimensional travel? A lot of people are saying that that's really stupid. We shouldn't have done that. You could have made me. You could have made me like that. Had we made it about responsibility. This seems like it's a movie that was that wanted to at some point be a movie about irresponsible people who learn how to be responsible through their own brilliance. Like brilliant and irresponsible is this movie. And because we didn't do enough with that, and they don't really learn a lesson about that, and at the end it's just kind of a token, easy teamwork thing that comes out of nowhere, I think that's why a lot of people are resisting that. So I'm seeing a lot of things. I'm somewhere between Dan and Steve on this. Dan said he had fun in places. I didn't really. But I think part of that is because I was so disappointed with all these really cool ideas that were coming at me whenever I was numb and felt like I wasn't even in my own body trying to watch this movie. And then all of a sudden, here's the cool idea. I was like, oh boy, I wish we'd go someplace with that. And then we didn't quite. I don't know. That's my read on it. And Dan, I'm also with you in that they're all really good performers. I don't feel like they're given enough to do where I really get to see a lot of a performance from a lot of them much of the time. I kept forgetting certain characters were even in the movie, which is weird in a Fantastic Four thing where, you know, they're all supposed to be on the same team eventually. But anyway, that's my read on it.
I'd like that you mentioned the drunken scene, because I think that was my favorite part of the movie. They bring up this idea that it wasn't the scientists that got to land on the moon first. It was Armstrong and Aldrin. And I love this idea that because of the way the government needs to spin and make things more acceptable, the people behind these ideas never get to shine. And in this version, it's more Reed Richards' fault that Ben Grimm becomes the thing than anywhere else. Like, he always blames himself for it, but this is, I think, the most it's actually been his fault, and it is kind of terrifying. And I like the whole body horror idea of it, but it's like you said, it doesn't go anywhere with it. It doesn't do anything. It brings up ideas in scenes, and it has moments where clearly you could have ran with a whole film with just this one scene, but it acts like that scene doesn't exist. It's not consistent with any of it. It feels like there was just these massive missing chunks of these characters got to know each other, and we didn't get to see it. Like, we see the initial Ben meeting Reed, and I like that, but then we just skip ahead to when they're working together, and I really wish we saw what they liked about each other.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way it plays to me is it feels kind of insulting to the audience. And again, as Dan said, I don't know who to blame for that. I'm just looking at the movie that we got. You got that one token moment where they're all laughing together in the middle of a montage, and I'm like, some of this stuff really should have been in scene. And I feel like a lot of these characters are kind of boiled down to like a single character trait. Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, I was really with this movie in the first act, and I really liked where it looked like it was going, idea and thematic-wise. Like, the opening scene with Reed in the classroom sort of giving his book report, I thought the movie was going to be about four curious people in a world of people that aren't curious about anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I bought Ben and Reed's initial spark of a relationship, because I was like, oh, even though Ben is like this blue-collar kid who lives with abusive parents and he just lives in a junkyard, basically, the one thing that connects him and Reed is that they're both curious people. And Ben doesn't necessarily understand the stuff that Reed's able to do, but he's interested by it. And I like all that stuff a lot. But then right after that, we just sort of started cutting to scenes with no lead up, and the relationship was further along, and I wanted to spend more time with those people, you know?
Yeah, but even though it was supposedly further along, I still didn't really buy it or anything. I mean, I didn't find myself going, oh, I got lost, but these people like know each other now. I still never felt like any of these characters were like fully realized and felt like complete people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I would have wanted to see more past that initial setup that I really liked.
Yeah, absolutely, but even in the real estate that we got, it wasn't really mined, right? I mean, like Sue and Reed don't really have any chemistry. I don't know if they're ever even supposed to actually like each other. I guess I'm just saying that because I know they're supposed to get married later on or whatever. But they do get some scenes together, and they're just really awkward. A lot of the writing choices in this I found absolutely bizarre.
Yeah. I think the one consistent problem, even in good scenes, is that the dialogue is really, really bad.
Yeah, it's just like I mean, when Josh Trank put out that now almost legendary tweet and said tweet, I can't talk tonight. We learned this earlier. Nothing I say is going to make sense. I just want everyone to know that. When he put out that tweet and he was like, there is a version of this movie that I had a year ago that if you got to see it, the critics would have loved it. And I'm like, well, then did all the dialogue get rewritten afterwards? Because even when you add back in whatever it is that we're missing, even if there was stuff that was shot that we didn't get to see, I still have a hard time imagining that I could, really get with stuff like. One of my big things is Franklin Storm. It just sounds like a science textbook, and he sounds like he's quoting out of a quote book all the time. He's not a character at all, and it almost got funny in a bad way. And so I don't know. There's just maybe some ideas that would have been fleshed out, but boy, I don't know if it could have saved some of the dialogue in this.
The character that I had the most of a read on, and it's not like altogether really in depth or anything, but the character that I think I felt the most invested in was Johnny, because I felt like at least some of his character arc, or what it was supposed to be in his worldview, was still in the movie. When he has that scene with his dad where he's talking about how your head's in the clouds all the time, you don't pay any attention to me, or you got to live in the real world. There's things that you got to deal with your family and things like that, and that's the big thing that causes a rift between them, and why Johnny wants to work for the government in the first place. Is he's like, well, we need to deal with the problems that are facing our country right now, rather than exploring and having our head in the stars and try to think about changing the world in that way, way far off. That could have been more at the forefront, but I think at least some of what they were trying to do with that character was still in the movie, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
There's so little. It was just there's so little that I kept forgetting about. I didn't feel like I even had time to think about what they were doing with it. Dan, you could have done something, and it's going to be really hard, by the way, not to make this whole thing just what we should have done. And one of the reasons I had such a hard time watching it and having a good time with it was because, I also think there's just not a lot of imagination. But as I'm going through this, I'm finding myself going, here's a thing we could have done, and then suddenly my head's in a different place, in the wrong place, and all of that. But Dan, I wonder if what they might have been going for initially was Johnny Storm ends up being more like his dad than he wants to admit, because not only does he think that there are applications that the government that he can trust the government. He's maybe naive in that way, and that there's applications for their powers. But also, having superpowers is cool. I mean, he still sort of has that, right? Like he in the other movies where he's like, these powers, we shouldn't see this as a curse. These powers are we're not dead. They work. We can use them. I'm still like a functioning person. Why don't we use them for stuff? And in that way, he might have gotten some of his dad in him of this kind of this curiosity about the universe.
Yeah, and Johnny Storm kind of given a purpose after
you're
his powers. He's sort of a directionless, reckless kid before he gets them, and the government gives him a job and a place in society. And if they did, if we had more scenes with the character and fleshed that out, it would have been really interesting. I don't know if those scenes were cut out of the movie or it was just a misstep, but that little there's something with each of the characters that I was like, that would be really interesting if they just ran with it. And my sort of exercise of thinking about what the movie could have been, I guess, was more interesting than the movie itself. But
yeah, exactly. That's the problem. We need, of course, to make sure and actually talk about the movie that's here. So let's talk about each character independently, shall we? Everybody in the comments is making a big deal out of, and this is superficial and stuff, but could we please at least give the Thing some pants? Which I think is kind of funny that people keep complaining about. And it was a thing that I was, willing to live with and see how it worked in the movie. And then I was distracted by it, certainly. But the Thing himself, once again, you've got this character who in the previous incarnation we actually get a little mileage out of. He's a rock creature and it's tragic and he wishes he could change back and he hates Reed for not helping him change back, and it felt like a footnote here, and that was really kind of unfortunate. I like the idea of all four of them see it as a curse. Three of them besides Johnny see it kind of as a curse, and it would have been neat to play with that some more and make kind of everybody a different version of the Thing until they find a way to get around that. Lo's actually here with us, so I want Lo to weigh in now.
Hi, I have no idea what you guys talked about, but I was there for a little bit. I could hear everything you were saying, but you guys couldn't see or hear me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, she was the invisible woman, everybody.
We were all talking in the comments about how I'm a ghost apparently now, so now I'm a robot and a ghost.
yeah. Well, are you sure you didn't like
many talents?
If you go to another dimension...
I was joking that I was in the ghost dimension, so...
Yeah, don't touch the green slime, okay? Just don't touch it.
Promise not to.
Lo, give us your... Because we haven't gotten to hear your overall opinion on this yet. I don't know how long you'll be able to be here, so go ahead and give us that, the best thing.
Just real quick before I... Yeah, just real quick before I disappear again. Best thing would be the first hour of the movie. I was really enjoying all the build-up. I mean, it wasn't awesome or anything. It wasn't going to be the best superhero movie of the year, but I liked it. And then that jump happened, which I'm sure you guys have already talked about. And right about the time when Dr. Storm died, and he said to his children, take care of each other, and I realized that Sue and Johnny had said, I think, 2 sentences to each other at that point, so they had no relationship to go off of. I just laughed and continued to laugh for the entire movie. Every line that came out was, I couldn't handle it. It was all very silly to me. Yeah. I don't really have much else to say beyond that, just that the dialogue was ridiculous.
Yeah, I felt the same way about it. I was talking about the Thing. Let's talk about each character separately. I think that's a good idea. Steve, why don't you get us started on that, and feel free to rope us into another character after that, unless Dan wants to weigh in on the Thing. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, so on the Thing, I liked the way he looked quite a bit, and I like the actor they picked for him in the initial scenes, and I like this idea that, like that we were talking about before, that the Thing, Ben Grimm is a naturally curious person. He just lacks the means or the ability that Reed has. But they see something in each other. Like in the trailer, they keep talking about how Ben Grimm is the muscle and Reed Richards is the brain. And so I like that classic dynamic. I think you could do something with that. The biggest issue I had, though, is I didn't understand what was going on with the character after he became the Thing. He agrees to... He's really, really absurdly upset at Reed Richards for turning him into the Thing, and that's fine. I understand that. But then he's just okay with spending an entire year with no progress whatsoever doing military missions without even getting one step closer to a cure. And I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand how calm he was about everything except when Reed Richards showed up. I felt like he should have been a little bit more complex, just in relationships with other characters like Franklin Richards and the people bossing him around and telling him to do things. The pants thing didn't distract me that much, but I did keep wondering and thinking about, well, how does the Thing biologically work?
Yeah, that's all I said when I was distracted. I was wondering that myself.
It's never that explicit in the comics, but I just kind of wonder, what is it? Can he feel? Can he not? There's that line of, he got used to the pain, but what does that mean? I really want to know what all that does to him, and then we never get anything from it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't really have nerve endings anymore. So you gotta wonder what the pain would be. I'm not saying that they had to really delve into that, but I guess the notion that the Thing might have become almost like less than human and just allowed himself to be bossed around and go off and do all that, and he like almost became heartless and cold and didn't really care about humanity anymore, might have been an interesting direction to take that. That's a thing that we could have done with it, and then he finds Reed again, and all of a sudden there's hope, and he doesn't know what to do with hope. As Dan said, all I feel like I can do is just keep coming up with other things we could have done with things that are kind of sort of there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things in regard to Ben Grimm's character in this, I think it was really unfortunate that the best action set piece of the movie was on the TVs when the military people were talking with the Thing like ripping tanks apart. I was like, that looks awesome. Show us that on the screen, please.
Yeah, because once we got the real action set piece at the end, it was kind of laughable.
The action set piece at the end is just Doctor Doom attacking people with dirt, and like Ben Grimm fighting tanks is so much cooler. I wish, like, instead of just seeing a black screen with 1 year later, we could have had a montage similar to the one of them eating Chinese food earlier in the movie that established their relationship, supposedly. We could have had a montage of Ben Grimm fighting military stuff and Sue Storm practicing their powers and Johnny doing stuff. If we're going to do montages in the movie to, you know, supposedly establish things, do a cool action one, because there wasn't like any action in the movie until the last 20 minutes of it, like Steve said.
And give us some actual details about characters through that stuff if you must do a lot of montages. And I feel like that many and making them as, you know, kind of weak typical character stuff as we got made them kind of silly and almost laughable. But I mean, if you've got to do them, is like you said, just like show us specific things. What are their interests beyond science, and beyond, you know, each of their, you know, kind of token interests. We'll talk about that action set piece at the end eventually. Let's get to some other characters. Reed Richards. The thing that kept kind of distracting me at the beginning was, and if you make this kind of a over the top stylized comic book world where, like Dan was saying, nobody is like interested in exploring and learning anything, like absurdly, like over the top. This might, what bothered me about it might have worked, but the problem was I felt like I couldn't decide how seriously I was supposed to take it. I felt like the movie was really kind of vague and all over the place about this. I couldn't deal with the fact that the science teacher like wasn't giving him the time of day at all, and sees a machine that breaks a backboard on the other side of a room is not real science. Couldn't deal with that.
The teacher earlier in the movie was like, no, being a scientist is not a real career. But then the other little kid was like, I want to be a football player, and like, this is how much they make. Like, what is the difference between that and being like, I want to be an astronaut? Like, little kids have weird like fantasies about what their careers mean.
Yeah, and he's just dismissing the machine because he doesn't understand it. I just feel like if we're gonna have any actual character realism in a thing like this, you're gonna forgetting realism, but like characters feeling like real people. Wouldn't everybody in that room stop with shock and awe, like, holy crap, look what this guy built, regardless of what it was intended to do? He's like, okay, so I teleported a thing, it just came back, and I also shattered a backboard. This guy wouldn't say it's not real science. He'd be like, holy crap, we should probably get rid of this. It looks really dangerous. And that kind of thing always bugs me. It's sort of like an Amazing Spider-Man, where like he throws a football and it hits a goalpost, and like nobody notices, and like it dents it, and like that sort of thing always drives me crazy. And again, this thing is just making a lot of those like really early rookie mistakes, and like we've never had superhero movies before. Anyway, somebody else go.
I really liked Miles Teller as Reed Richards. I think if he was in a much better movie, he would have been the standout performance of the movie. He's a really good actor, and I was really into the way he played young Reed Richards, and how kind of starry-eyed he is. Now, the thing with Reed Richards that wasn't in the movie, but they sort of give lip service to at the end, is Reed's arrogance, because Reed does have an ego, and that gets in the way a lot, especially if you read some of the early FF stuff, and I'm sure in Ultimate FF, I haven't read any of that, but I'm sure if they're consistent with the way that the character is, but just make him younger, then that's the same thing. That often, his pursuit of knowledge and his arrogance combined sort of isolates him from the team quite a bit, and they kind of get angry with him a lot. And that's what I think that they were trying to make the main conflict between him and Victor being, and especially maybe their worldviews, because Victor talks a lot about how, you know, humans have already outstayed their welcome, and their pursuit of knowledge has led them to destroy themselves ultimately. Like, our destruction is imminent. And Reed maybe was a little bit more optimistic about that, but they never had a conversation about it. And Reed never says to Victor, I'm smarter than you, or gives him any sort of reason to think that. Doom is just kind of mean to him whenever he is around, and he gets jealous when he makes awkward looks at Sue. So I think all of the trappings of what Reed Richards' character should be is in the movie, but it's not explored at all, and it's just given lip service to.
And same thing with Victor, right? Like, I don't know how Victor got to be as jaded about that stuff as he is. He's got a couple, like you said, throwaway lines about how humanity's destroying itself, and that's what we're trying to pay off with him trying to destroy the world at the end. I don't know why he feels like that. I also don't know why everybody thinks he's so dangerous. That was a point Vince brought up the other day. Why does everybody think he's so dangerous and he's got to get thrown out? Besides, there's one mention of him burning down something or something, but again, I don't know how he got there. I don't know why everybody's so scared of him.
One of the things about Victor that I thought was really strange, and maybe this is sort of a discussion of the entire structure of the plot of the movie in general, but Victor goes to this alternate dimension and becomes so enamored with it that he wants to destroy the world in favor of creating a new one in this alternate dimension. We see, like, literally one location in this place and literally know nothing else about it, other than the fact that it's sandy and there's glowy green stuff in it. I wish, if we were going to make the alternate dimension the main motivation of the villain, that we knew more about that place, right? Like, what makes it so, and what makes it so interesting to Victor? What makes it the place that he wants to start a new Earth with? Like, why? I just don't understand.
And why is he so okay with being completely alone at the expense of the human race?
Well, I think the idea was to start over, and he's going to do the Dr. Manhattan thing and make his own society. But
oh, maybe so. Yeah, well, and you know what? Dr. Manhattan was what I kept thinking the whole movie. I kept thinking, wouldn't it have been neat? Because he had a whole year. He's got all this amazing power, unless, of course, he only has certain powers on Earth that he doesn't have there because he doesn't use his massive telekinesis for anything but moving rocks around when he's actually in the other dimension, which makes me wonder if they're inconsistent with that, or if he just has a different power set depending on where he is. I'm not sure. But anyway, it made me wonder why he didn't spend that year like building stuff, and like he could have had like this whole awesome city or something when we went back there. And again, I don't mean to like rewrite the movie or whatever, but like that could have been there or something like it, and we could have, you know, some imaginative things going on in the movie and tell the same story I think they're sort of trying to tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because, like, all of the things that you think about could have been in the movie, and it talks about as maybe being there, but the movie's, like, too short to accommodate this sort of ideas that it's trying to talk about. I mean, I think there's some imagination in reimagining what these characters are, and, like, some of the modernizations of the FF lore I thought were really cool, but it's just not executed properly. I mean, I don't think the problem is that there's no imagination in it necessarily. I don't know. Like, I thought some of the potential ideas were cool. They just weren't executed properly. I don't know.
Yeah. I think part of my problem also is recently I've been really fixated on Age of Ultron because I loved that movie, and regardless of how well handled the ideas are, everything that they were trying to do between Reed Richards and Dr. Doom here, I think was handled in more detail with Age of Ultron with Tony Stark and Ultron. And part of the problem is we had a really strange year when it came to comic book films, and everyone had these bizarre, all over the spectrum ideas of what this film's going to be, and clearly it affected it somehow. So by the time we got to the end, there were lots of points where I felt like I think they're either copying certain films or acting like they were a different film in between scenes. Like sometimes it's a feel-good comedy, other times it's a really dark movie, other times it's a bombastic superhero film, but it makes all the same mistakes, like you said, mentioned, Capital, of earlier superhero movies. And I think Doom is like the perfect personification of all that because he's such a poorly conceived villain.
Yeah, I agree with that. Back to what Dan was talking about for a second, just because I like to answer that and address it. Yeah, Dan, I think that Josh Trank had a lot of really cool ideas at the beginning. I think there was a vision originally, and I think that there was imagination in some of the initial concepts. What I'm talking about mostly is in characterization and then visually, like that. Like I said, that last action scene is just so completely uninspired. We're not doing anything all that interesting with the powers. As you said, we only go to that one place in that dimension. It's a really drab, dreary place. We have kind of two places in the entire movie that we're at. One of them is really super sterile. The other one, there's just not a lot going on there, and it's not capturing my imagination. That combined with, and then like at the end, they make a really big deal out of, look, you got this big lab, and it kind of reminds me of the previous lab, but it's just a little bit bigger. I mean, like, I really didn't feel like in executing those ideas, anybody's heart was in it, and so it just kind of put me in a slump the whole time. I was really bored the entire time. You guys are talking about how the first hour is better than the last hour. First half is better than the last half, because we don't have 2 hours. I agree with that. The problem is, once we get the time jump, I start to question how much of a lot of that was necessary. I mean, I started thinking a lot of the characterization that you guys did sort of at the beginning that's not really there, but you're talking about things, because a lot of the dialogue is just exposition. It could have been done after they got their powers. I mean, a lot of the big problem for me, ultimately, is this is yet another Fantastic Four movie, just like we had in the early 2000s, except I think that's ultimately a better movie. Weirdly, is that it's the Fantastic Four get powers, and then not a lot happens. And actually, in this version, we go a long time, and the Fantastic Four don't get powers yet. Like, there's not that much story in the origin. You could maybe come up with something and tell a cool story there, but I just feel like it comes off again as another kind of maddening, like, not giving the audience any credit kind of movie, saying we have to have this big like showing you getting their powers thing before we can actually tell a story. And I just really hate that. When you said the other day on Facebook, Dan, that you wanted to see a sequel to this, I'm like, yeah, because that would be where the story was, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the initial script did have a story, or what he wanted to do originally had a story. I don't know. But yeah, given what we have here, there's not really all that much to go on. And I'd really like to see a sequel because I like the cast and the general tone of the thing, really. I think if the ideas that they were trying to hint at here were executed properly, this would have fit into Fox's X-Men universe perfectly.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
It's a hard sci-fi thing. It's got some political things that it's talking about, just like X-Men is. It's very similar in tone to that. And it reminded me a lot of the first Bryan Singer X-Men movie in the way that it was sort of trying to go about itself. And I don't know. We're probably not going to see that. And the Fox producers have already come out and said that they exist in parallel universes, so they could cross them over. But this doesn't take place in the same universe that we know from X-Men, apparently. So I don't know. Given how how much people have seemed to hate this movie and bashed it and given it like 10% on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that. Like, I don't see them doing anything with this version of the franchise ever again, which disappoints me because I don't know. I found some things to like in it.
Well, I'm not disappointed necessarily that we're not going to get any more of it. I'm disappointed that this in the first place wasn't, it didn't work, because I think really cool stuff after this could have been done, even if this wasn't a great. If we just liked these characters, we could live with the fact that there wasn't a great story and make another one. We did that the first time around. But to your point with X-Men. First of all, I feel like even if it was just a parallel universe, since we have a dimension traveling thing, it would be really neat if we had all these paralleling things to X-Men, and then they met each other and they had a lot of stuff in common. I feel like it doesn't even have to be in that universe in the first place for that crossover to work really, really well. You have two big things. First of all, with the Fantastic Four getting their powers and it being almost a horror show. Once again, my favorite thing about the movie, it's a horror show that they get their powers. And then the and then the government immediately starts experimenting on them and then trying to use them. You parallel that to Weapon X. Suddenly, they have a lot in common with Wolverine, and they can understand what he's going through. I think that's really cool. The second thing is you could have really paralleled the Reed Richards and Doctor Doom thing with Professor X and Magneto very, very easily.
Yeah, exactly. And Fantastic Four and X-Men aren't two things that necessarily in my mind would have, like just reading the comics, I wouldn't have been like, oh, those are two things that make sense to cross over with each other. But given the general, what I think they might have wanted to do with this at the beginning, I think now that connection clicked in my mind. And I don't know, I'm just disappointed.
Well, the question I have for you, Dan, is... Because again, I'm with you. I'd love to see somebody take the ideas here and do something better with it. But do you think that another reboot, like if the rights went back to Marvel, isn't kind of what we sort of need now? I mean, like, I guess the question I'm asking you is, does this fit better with X-Men or does it fit better with Marvel Cinematic? Because I'm not sure now. I'm almost leaning toward X-Men at this point, which is weird.
If you're talking about the FF in general, I think Marvel Studios would make something more true to the spirit in terms of tone and wackiness to the original Stan Lee and Jack Kirby comics. I don't know if we'd get something that would be as idea-driven as this wanted to be. I think, especially lately, some of the Marvel movies have been, for me, a little bit too overcrowded and, kind of paint by numbers. Like Ant-Man was a movie that I liked, but it wasn't like, it didn't blow me away or anything. But then there's stuff like Winter Soldier that, they can do great movies. It's just, I feel like FF might get caught up in the Marvel machine, and they already have their movies planned out to like 2020, so we wouldn't get one till like Phase 4 or whatever anyway, after we see Thanos potentially. So, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think that this means Fox is necessarily going to give the rights back, because we know there's a lot of bad blood between the two companies. Fox might try to reboot it again just to keep it away from Marvel. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and we should talk about that after a while. But yeah, and then of course we should get to Invisible Woman, because we haven't really talked about her, and maybe some more about Victor. But what's so weird about it is that, as I said earlier, I think a lot of people are pointing to the wrong issues with why this isn't working. I don't think it's the approach or the vision. It's the lack of taking the vision that was there in the first place and running with it. There's a lot of trepidation and kind of scaredy catness going on here with studio interference, or Josh Trank just in the middle of the movie deciding, screw it, I'm sick of people complaining about stuff they haven't seen yet, I'm sick of the studio and all that, messing the movie up. Who knows what it was exactly. But you go back and you read the earliest issues of Fantastic Four, and they're wacky in that you've got these people with these crazy powers dealing with a lot of nuts over the top stuff. But isn't X-Men exactly the same thing? And we do a lot of dark stuff with X-Men. I think it's because of what we remember versus what it really is. I think this is somewhat of an interpretation of some of that early stuff. Now, yes, it's interdimensional. Yes, some of the roles in what exactly people are doing to go to the other dimension and all that are different, or to go to space or whatever it would be, are kind of different. But when you go back and you look at that early stuff, in the origin, the Fantastic Four are like horrified when they get their powers. I mean, like I think that they are taking it. That book was taking it seriously. It just looks different because of the time that it's in and the fact that it was, comics were seen as primarily for kids. It was really bright colored and all that stuff. I think this is an interpretation. I don't think it's darkening it up. I think it's more contemporizing it. And I'm surprised I'm saying that, because there's other things I think we have darkened up too much. This, I think, is kind of an interpretation of that same material.
I think so too. I mean, like, the Thing has always been a really tragic character from the beginning. It's been sort of a take on the classic monster movie kind of thing. So I didn't necessarily have a problem with them going in that direction with it. I mean, they did that sort of in the other Fantastic Four movies, but it was a little bit more silly.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Susan Storm once again. something of a non-entity. What I liked about the potential of the characterization was let's make her really kind of cold and impersonal and kind of non-tactile and hard to and like that could have been reflected really well with her invisible powers. And it ended up kind of coming off like just not a great performance from Mira, which is unfortunate because I think she's great. I think she got the character in a way we didn't because we didn't get to see all the material. But the whole thing of just like making her really good at patterns so she could kind of move the plot along was like super typical and contrived and goofy to me.
Yeah, I thought
everything. So yeah, everything with her, I just felt like she was just there to be like the girl. Like she didn't even get to go to the planet. Like she got her powers from just getting hit with light, and that was kind of like, okay, I don't know. She was, she felt like like a non-entity in the movie.
Yeah, we get lines thrown at us like both Reed Richards and Doom trust her for reasons we don't understand, and that's about it. She's important because dialogue says that she's important and she's part of the Fantastic Four, but she really has no character.
No, I definitely agree. I think, again, the pattern thing could have potentially been interesting. Like, she sees the patterns that humanity might be on a path to extinction and she wants to change it, and that's potentially why her and Victor and Reed have sparks with each other. I mean, but that's not in the movie at all. They could have done interesting things with that, but, it's just not there. The one character trait that she has is that she likes some band I've never heard of. And
yeah, I mean, like there was almost a spark there, right? Like she has to listen to music in order to concentrate, and she sees all these patterns in the music and stuff. I don't know why I'm so fixated on this. I felt like that needed to be reflected in the powers in some way. It was such a specific choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like patterns of light or something, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And but you know what else is really weird? They don't do anything with her being invisible. Like, it's all with her being able to levitate and force fields. Like, she hardly ever turns invisible for any stealth purpose or anything like that. And I just think that's weird. It's like, come up with and that's why I say unimaginable. Come up with something to do with the powers. We don't do anything with them.
Well, I mean, it's inherent. Like, she's working for the government. Wouldn't she be the perfect secret agent if she can be invisible?
Yeah. Why aren't we using her? We're just like, well, we got a rock creature, we got a fire guy, and I'm pretty sure we'd use the stretchy guy if we had him around. That's another thing we didn't talk about with Reed is why exactly does he run off for a year? Because again, you could make a case for he's scared, he doesn't want to deal with all this stuff, and maybe he somehow rather has a sense of what the government will do to him because he's jaded because nobody's like appreciated him in the past, and they're not gonna trust his science or whatever it is. But it was somewhat arbitrary too. Like, why didn't anybody else do that? I don't know. I kind of wondered why he ran off for so long.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's off in the woods doing something. I mean, I kind of assumed that he might have been trying to find a cure for his friends, but, who knows, really. We just kind of see him, like, driving a truck around and, like, changing his face into some other dude for some reason.
Yeah, and we see him...
and then never doing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see him collecting like news clippings of the Thing and stuff like that, but I wasn't sure why, except just that he was interested to know what his friends were doing. That was about it. I mean, like, it seems like running off in the woods is not really a great way to try to figure out how to fix your friends because you have no access to any kind of equipment or anything.
I couldn't help but keep thinking about the Daredevil movie when I was watching this because I was like, it seems like somebody cut the story out of this movie.
Yeah, and then all like, piecemealed weird things together and stuff like that.
Very strange the way it was edited. Like, even some of the conversations I felt like ended prematurely. Like, most of the conversations that Reed would have with Sue were really strange. Like, there would be the first scene where they really sit down and have a conversation after she is listening to the music and she doesn't really give him the time of day. They just kind of like say a few awkward things to each other, and Sue says like, I like having you here, or something like that. And then it cuts to, like, something with Victor, and you're like, it seems like the conversation was just about to start. What was the point of that scene? Like, nothing was accomplished with that section of dialogue that you just gave us. Like, it's just them being awkward, and nothing, like, the story isn't driven forward at all. It feels like there was more to that conversation that we just didn't see. And, I don't know, it's just very strange.
Yeah, not only are we missing too many things that clearly were there in the first place, or maybe even cut from the script before it was certainly was shot or whatever. But like, it's almost difficult to talk about this or review it because it feels like we have not just an incomplete piece, but like an incomplete picture. Like I almost feel like, and I hate this because movies are supposed to stand on their own. I almost feel like we'd have to know how and why certain things were put together the way they were, and who's responsible before you can even talk about it. I mean, when people criticized Daredevil before they knew what exactly it was that caused those problems, and then you saw the director's cut, suddenly I'm reviewing that movie in an entirely different way. And a lot of people have been comparing this to Daredevil and thinking similar sorts of things happen. Now, once again, I'm not sure how you completely salvage this with the caliber of writing we have, but I'm sure it was more cohesive at one point.
Yeah, I mean, there are, and this is a rumor, granted, but, given what we have, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. It's supposedly, after a while, like, when they came back to do the reshoots, Simon Kinberg had to, like, shoot the final act of the movie without Josh Trank. He directed, like, the final action scene and things like that.
That explains everything if it's true.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys see Josh Trank tweeted, I don't know if you guys already talked about this.
We talked about it a little bit, yeah.
Okay, that he completely denounced the movie and was like, there was a better cut a year ago, and then he deleted it. But just that goes to show you that there was definitely some things going on with people re-editing the movie. Whether or not it was a better cut, who knows?
Yeah, but you gotta wonder what was there in the first place. I don't know if he got in over his head, or if the studio didn't believe in him, or what exactly had happened. But you've got all those, we shouldn't talk about this too much, but you got all those rumors about him drinking on set and doing weird, bothering people in hotel rooms and things like that. If all that's true, I think it's fascinating that he tried to make a movie partially about immaturity and seems to have made it in the most immature way possible.
Yeah, we don't.
That's fascinating. We don't know, but if that ends up being true, I think it's really interesting that he put that he had the drunk thing in there, and that there are rumors that he's like that.
Well, I mean, and I guess this doesn't feed into the movie too much, but I think we should also address it from the other side.
I don't know anything I just said.
We should address it from both sides. Well, apparently, what happened, and this is more or less confirmed. Fox was making Josh Trank's life a living hell when making this movie. Like, they wouldn't finalize anything. They were constantly building and destroying sets every other day. Their people were working on this movie without having any idea what they were working on. And so part of the reason Josh Trank was behaving so immaturely is because Fox wasn't helping him whatsoever, and they delayed everything to the highest level possible. And the only thing he really got, but when shooting started, that was truly his, was the cast.
Wow, that's nuts. Well, and you listen to all the really interesting sounding things he was talking about when he first started making the movie, and this is not that movie. And I don't know. I think that's really sad. I like Trank. I really like Chronicle. A lot of people don't like. I really like Chronicle, and I thought he was perfect for this. He's got those hard science fiction sensibilities. I don't know. I was so excited about it, and I remained excited all the way to the end. I didn't care the 13 and the 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. I just wanted to see it before I made any kind of a call. Dan, let's answer this question real quick, because I know this is kind of foremost on your mind. The notion of, is it too harsh the way people are reacting? I don't know that it is, in that I think people are refusing to see any spark of interesting that might be there. At the same time, if the characterization's not compelling and you're bored and stuff, I don't think you can begrudge people for not catching that stuff. The movie has to work hard to make you care. That's important. But the whole 10% on Rotten Tomatoes thing sounds super, super harsh. But I didn't give this a positive review. I mean, that's the thing, is that I can find positive things in it, but all the whole positive negative thing. I mean, all the percentage thing on Rotten Tomatoes is positive reviews counted against negative reviews, and most critics, most of us, and I count myself among them, at the end of the day, are going to have to kind of flip red on this. So yeah, I see how that happened.
Yeah, it seems like I enjoyed the movie a little bit more than most of the people I talk to, but I can't give it a positive review either. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah. And, that's the thing. That's how 10% on Rotten Tomatoes happens. I mean, you would have flipped it red too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not denying that in any way at all. Definitely. But I think it's a little bit of a hyperbole to say that it's the worst superhero movie of all time, and like that it's worse than Batman and Robin and things like that. I mean, I don't agree with that. I think a lot of it has to do with the people who have been following the production and saying it's going to be bad ever since, and then their, beliefs were confirmed, and now they're having kind of a heyday and saying like, look, we were right, and yeah, they were.
Because I don't think they're right for any of the reasons they thought they'd be right.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that bothers me about it. But whatever. I'm just really disappointed that the movie didn't end up being good. Regardless of what other people think about it, it's just disappointing in general.
Yeah. Boy, Vince and I, people made fun of us so hard with that review because we were just like sad. Like when we were talking about.
I don't blame you. Like I watched the review and like I could tell Vince was really distraught because I know Fantastic Four is one of his favorite things, if not his favorite.
I wish he could be here tonight. I think he's probably glad he didn't have to talk about it anymore. I asked him today. We went to a convention today, and I asked Vince. I said, "Are you over Fantastic Four yet?" And he said, "No." No, I'm not. He had a rough thing. And, so, now, this is a fair question. Some people are like, why is it so important to you that there's a good Fantastic? Like, why does it bother you that this particular movie wasn't good? And I think it's twofold. First of all, whether or not you're a big Fantastic Four fan, I feel like, for all the reasons we were talking about earlier, there is a potentially really cool movie here. Look, if you can turn Ant-Man into a decently watchable movie, Fantastic Four is a no-brainer. Secondly, I just feel like people think it's not possible because it hasn't been done yet. And that's no reason to think that. The right vision hasn't been. And also, the first one, not the Roger Corman one, but the one after that, is not the super terrible. I think story wise, it's almost up against the first Spider-Man. I think a lot of people just didn't know what to do with it because it was kind of silly. Okay, Spider-Man is a better movie than that. I'm not, but it is. But I'm just saying it was somewhat in that vein. I thought. Secondly, I think that a lot of the reason that some of us wanted this to be really good is because there is a big question about whether or not Fox will ever sell the rights back. To give the rights back to Marvel, for all the reasons we were talking about earlier, because and I think it's really sad and petty if that ends up happening, unless again they have a really good vision for it. But it didn't happen this time. How is the same studio doing so well with X-Men?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough because for me, I want a really good Fantastic Four movie because, in a lot of ways, the Fantastic Four is Marvel Comics. There is no Marvel Comics without Fantastic Four. The Marvel Universe was created in the pages of Fantastic Four. So you want to see the Marvel tentpole. I mean, for a long time, Spider-Man was the face of Marvel, but every important event in the Marvel Universe for a very long time happened in Fantastic Four. Absolutely. That was kind of the event comic before there were event comics. All of the large, huge, cataclysmic events happened in that book, and you want to see those things adapted. I mean, one of the best supervillains in all of comics is Dr. Doom, and we haven't gotten a proper adaptation of him yet, and that's really unfortunate. You would have thought we get a proper adaptation of Dr. Doom before you get stuff like as perfect as Loki was in the Avengers and Thor and stuff like that. It's annoying, and I don't know, it's unfortunate that Fox hasn't made a good Fantastic Four movie yet, but I don't know. I don't think it's petty that they won't sell them back to Marvel or whatever. I mean, we don't necessarily know the situation. The reason that Marvel still exists as an entertainment entity is because Fox bought the movie rights of X-Men and Fantastic Four from them in the first place back in the '90s. Marvel wouldn't exist if it wasn't for those purchases. So, I mean, to a large degree, those movie properties are theirs, and they're their brands to to cultivate and do well with, and they just haven't hit it with this one yet. I think we have to be fair because Marvel has had some missteps too. I haven't particularly liked some of their movies, and I'm not saying they should sell the rights to Thor to another studio because Thor: The Dark World was bad. I don't know. I think we have to be fair.
I think you're missing what I'm saying. I'm saying that if the reason they won't sell it back is because they're trying to spite Marvel because they just don't want them to have it, that would be petty. That's all I'm saying. If they can give it to a great team,
Marvel isn't treating them right either. They tried to make a deal with them behind the scenes, and then Marvel.
You're absolutely right about that.
Them they're taking their characters off of merchandise and stuff. I mean, we don't know.
That's true, but they hired a director, and then they might not. This is hard to talk about. We just don't know enough. But they hired a director, and it sure sounds like they didn't let him make the movie he wanted to make. Now there might have been reasons for that, I don't know, but a lot of people are saying, of course, that this was Fox just making another movie to be able to keep the rights, and they didn't really care about it. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to know. You gotta wonder if, like, instead of going with an unproven director like this, or at least unproven for them apparently, why not give it to somebody that had already done great work with X-Men? Like Matthew Vaughn's name's on it as a producer. Why not have him direct it?
I don't know. I mean, Matthew Vaughn doesn't like to do sequels, so maybe he was trepidatious about doing another Marvel superhero thing. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why he didn't come back for Days of Future Past. They wanted to do that originally, and they brought Bryan Singer in, which ended up being a good thing. Maybe Matthew Vaughn's Days of Future Past would have been great too. I mean, who knows? But
maybe I shouldn't have said petty. I guess, Dan, I'm just a little. My whole thing is there are so many great characters attached to Fantastic Four that nobody can use right now, that at least Marvel can't use, and that Fox probably won't ever, or at least for a long time. You know what I mean? Like that's my whole thing. I don't really care as much about Fantastic Four being back at Marvel as I do about certain characters that are attached to it. And it's kind of sad now. Like you said, if we could just give Doom back, Marvel would probably do really cool stuff with the gravitas of that character.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, but then a lot of their villains are kind of two-dimensional and one note as well. I mean,
but most of them are villains that they weren't excited about doing and weren't major villains. Like, they took Loki, he's a big deal, and they made him a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. But, then you get people like Malakath. He's a big major villain, too, and they didn't really do anything with him.
He's a big villain for those of us that read that arc.
He's a big Thor villain. Like, he's one of the big major Thor Rogues Galleries characters, Okay,
I don't know what the heck happened with that. You're right. But
yeah, I mean, I just don't think we know enough to, like, blame Fox for, being petty or whatever. It's an unfortunate situation, I'm with you, but I just don't want to make those kind of accusations about him. You know what I mean? I just don't feel comfortable about that.
Well, we haven't heard from Steve in a while. Go ahead, man. Bring up something.
Well, I guess something I do want to mention is we should probably discuss the option of Fox just rebooting this. Because I hate that. I hate that right away. We've already got 2 reboots of Spider-Man, and we're already talking about the future of this franchise without including this movie. And I think Dan's right. We need a sequel to this. Part of what bugs me is that the movie comes out, everyone is setting their opinions, and we're not allowing proper time to set in and see what the impact of this movie is.
Yeah.
And I really want this movie to stay for a while and give us something in the future that's a reflection of what this did, both good and bad, as opposed to Fox or Marvel debating about who gets to make a new one that isn't attached to it. I think Marvel could have easily just made Amazing Spider-Man 3 if they wanted to. I think that would have been a really good idea on their part, because we didn't need constant readaptations of the same thing. I think this movie could have been great. I think you could make a sequel that's absolutely brilliant. The problem is, though, people are so gung-ho and so factual about their opinions sometimes that just because this movie did poorly and because Fox knew it was going to do poorly, they started going to theaters and handing out surveys asking what should we do next with Fantastic Four. They've already written this movie off, and I don't like that attitude at all.
Yeah, but here's the problem: when a thing like just basic business, when a thing like this tanks like it does, a sequel doesn't make a lot of sense, because.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time,
got to give it a chance. Is the question? If it's the same cast, my deal is I don't know that people are going to give Fantastic Four a chance, regardless of what it is, for a while after this. And frankly, I don't know. Fantastic Four is not the most popular thing in the world. Even if this movie had been great, I don't know if it would have really performed. There's no way to know.
Yeah.
Possible it wouldn't. It wouldn't have done 22 million opening weekend, but it might not have done real well.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of confusion just from the inception of this movie, and I think part of what it is we haven't had a really breakthrough Fantastic Four thing in a while. We had that animated series for a little while in the early 2000s, which wasn't great. They haven't been big in the comics except for the Jonathan Hickman run. I feel like someone needs to show up and say, I've got a really good idea for Fantastic Four, and kind of be more passionate about it than anyone else. Because Josh Trank had an idea, but it seems like what he wanted to do is, I wanted to make this movie, let's just happen to use it as Fantastic Four. I think we need to start back at what makes these characters great and pitch it to more people before we come back and make another reboot film just for the sake of keeping the rights or selling the rights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say that I think some of what was the movie was supposed to be was in the spirit of Fantastic Four, and
I think so too. I agree with
mean,
that.
I don't think it was necessarily Trank just making a movie and pasting the FF characters on it. And I think there was some reverence for some of the FF, staples in the comics. Like, they used the Baxter Building and did a different kind of spin on it. And they talk about the Fantastic Car briefly. They joke about him making a flying car in his house.
That was fine. I like that.
Yeah, like there's obviously some love and reverence for the source material here, if anything. But I'm with you. I think there needs to be a vision that the studio is comfortable letting the director run with. I mean, it's just a matter of them trusting the director. I mean, we've seen other studios like all the stuff that happened behind the scenes production with Ant-Man. Obviously, there was problems with that vision there too, and we don't know what happened, and we don't know who ended up being right in that situation. Whoever was at fault for whatever happened with this movie is obviously in the wrong. But we don't know who it is at this point, unfortunately. So
I do agree with Trank from that tweet that Lo mentioned when he says that we probably will never see the version he wanted us to see.
I don't think so.
With all the issues that he and that studio had, I don't think that, like, at least when that happened with Daredevil, it wasn't a studio thing. Well, I mean, yeah, it was like a producer thing, but at least they were still in good spirits with the director. So they let him
make Ghost Rider after that. They hired him to make another comic movie.
Yeah, and Daredevil, remember the big difference between this and Daredevil is that Daredevil made money.
Yes,
like it actually performed. You know what I mean? They spun off Elektra from it. People remember it as a giant failure because people didn't like it. But and it wasn't a giant success. But Daredevil was also kind of a small-time superhero that people didn't know that well. So the first one, remember, Batman Begins didn't do huge guns. We needed it before we could get Dark Knight. You see what I'm saying? I mean, like, so I don't know. But I think that's sad. That we're not going to see anything close to what he was trying to make. Then again, if they had issues from the very beginning, then who knows if his cut was as good as he's saying it was.
Yeah, and I'm glad, based on what happened with this movie, if Trank has trouble working with big studios that have massive amounts of creative control in their projects, I'm glad he's not doing the Star Wars movie anymore, because that probably would have been a mess too. And I don't think we can afford, with this new branding of Star Wars, to put out anything bad that soon, because fans have already been burned 3 times recently with the films, at least. So I'm kind of glad that's not happening anymore.
Again, it's sad because I thought that was a great choice at one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently, he got, because at first I'd heard that happened because he was just burnt out with this and didn't want to make, and apparently got fired because of all the stories with this. So there's got to be some truth to it.
There's got to be some connection between him working with Kinberg on this and the Star Wars movie, because Kinberg's heavily involved with all the Star Wars.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, because he wrote the pilot of Rebels, he produces that show, and he's producing some of the new Star Wars movies. So, he's all over that stuff too. So I would imagine he got the word over to Disney that it wasn't working out.
Somebody said something about kind of a pseudo-soft reboot for this thing, sort of like, and they said, and I thought it was interesting, sort of like they're doing with Ninja Turtles 2. Oh, really? I wonder what that's going to be like. Okay, I hadn't heard that yet.
Are you involved with Ninja Turtles 2, like screenwriters and producers and stuff?
I don't know. When I hear soft reboot for this or for something like Ninja Turtles 2, my imagination says it's not going to be a soft reboot, sort of like a Days of Future Past or Star Trek. It'll just be in that we kind of have taken what happened there and said that it happened, but then pretty much forgot about it and characterized them in better and more interesting and solid ways. Which is what they should do. I mean, that's what you do with this, because somebody said that it's let's see, Shay. I hope Fox doesn't reboot this. It's still salvageable due to the cast. I think so too. Now, I walked out asking myself if it was salvageable. Nothing happens in this. Yeah, it's salvageable. I mean, like there's not, you can kind of start over in a way. Okay, they have powers now, and and it's got this tone, and the government tried to use them for things. Go.
And since nobody saw this, then the second one.
But I don't know.
Like the first hour has some salvageable stuff there. Like, it's not like it was just terrible through and through. It does make me sad that this has such a low score on Rotten Tomatoes, because it's not as bad as things that are down there, like the Avatar movie. But, like, it has salvageable stuff in it, which I think makes it even worse when you get to the end, because it did have some good setup during that first bit that you could use in a sequel. I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either, which is unfortunate. I would love if you did this movie in like a sequel to it in 15 years when everyone's older and they're the ages of the actual FF in the comics, where they're like an older family and stuff. That'd be really cool. But that probably won't happen either.
Getting back to the movie itself for a minute, and I know we've gone well over an hour already. I wanted to mention, because we didn't really talk as much about that final scene as I wanted to, and really just the big point I wanted to make about that was how weird it was. And this is like superficial, not really story stuff, but inconsistent, takes you out, and is weird. How do you beat a guy with telekinesis? By choking him? Just throwing that out there. I mean, maybe you get him off balance or something, but you have to kind of tell us that and be explicit about it. I mean, like, this guy's throwing rocks at people and stuff, and then was boiling people's heads a lot, in our universe, which seemed almost too graphic for this material. But maybe that's just because it's so tonally all over the place that I'm not sure what is going too far in this. I really don't know what is going too far in this.
I think it was going too far. My husband's really squeamish when it comes to violence, and that moment where the first head explodes, and it was he was recoiling, oh, what is happening here?
I mean, I guess the point is just look how powerful he is, and if we did more stuff about, this could be wonderful, or this could be absolutely mortifying, you could make me buy why we need that violence.
Well, if we had been a little bit more graphic with them getting their powers and a little bit more kind of horror, they sort of had that with the way that the actors were portraying it, but the actual visuals that we were seeing were very glossy almost. It didn't look like anybody was in pain. There was no people being in pain and trying to use their powers and stuff like that. Even with the Thing talking about it later, he said oh, we just got used to the pain. We didn't really see him dealing with that. I mean, I guess that goes back to the 1 year jump that they did, that they could have described some of that, but there wasn't anything leading up to that was even remotely similar to the heads exploding as he walked down the hallway.
I disagree a little bit. I think the scene with Reed waking up with his limbs all stretched out and his arms weren't moving properly and he couldn't figure out how to move his limbs and stuff. I don't know. I thought that was kind of horrifying. Not popping heads like a balloon horrifying, but,
My theater laughed at that. But the moment they saw Reed with her arms stretched out, my theater started laughing.
Oh, fair enough.
As soon as I saw him, As soon as I saw him turn around when he was trying to get over to the Thing, and he turned around and he saw his body, I laughed.
Isn't it weird how inconsistent the graphics are in this? And once again, I mean, if you got a great story, I can kind of care less about that. I'm not a visual guy. I kind of couldn't care less about that. I'm going to be grammatically correct. But when you when you have a movie that's just not working, I notice it more. And it was weird that the stretchy effect thing looked really good, and then you get to that last scene, and some of that is just laughable. With the CG cars hitting the force field, they barely looked rendered. It was bizarre. Some of the torch flying stuff was really bad.
Yeah, it was. One of the things I wondered about that last fight in relation to what you were saying with the Doom popping people's heads thing, why was he fighting the FF with dirt if he could just explode their heads and end the fight in 5 minutes?
Well, that's why I said that Vince had this theory and almost found it a foregone conclusion, and I was like, I don't think you can give it that bad. I think you're giving it too much credit. Was that somehow Doom had different powers there than he did here?
Yeah, maybe. We have we don't have any sort of clue as to how his powers work. What even are his powers?
I don't know. He can move land in one dimension, and he can blow up things and move everything in another dimension. As far as he might be omnipotent, he might be omnipotent and uncreative. I don't know.
It's just really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like.
To do with Doom. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the one thing that I liked related to Doctor Doom was the fact that they got some sort of way to make his face look like that mask with the Jack Kirby mouthpiece thing that he always has in the comics. Like the spacesuit things kind of looked like that, and then it got kind of like melted onto his face. I thought that was kind of cool. But
I liked his voice a lot. I thought the actor could do a perfect Doctor Doom if they just gave him a little bit more.
Now, I should have said this a lot earlier. One of my issues, I think, is that I've only seen this once because I had such a dismal experience. I kind of don't want to watch it again. And I remember in the theater thinking that all that was really silly, like the melting the suit on his face and on his body and stuff, just try to make it sort of look like the Doctor Doom suit because we don't want to go as far as to give these characters suits. When I think you could have just as easily, if he's got power to do anything, although I don't really know that, just have the guy be so full of himself and so super grandiose that he's like, and I have a costume. But I don't know. I just remember thinking it was really silly while I was watching.
I kind of liked the spacesuits themselves because they looked like the spacesuits that the FF like have in the original Origin and stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they look like the spacesuits that they had on.
That's true. They did. I'll give it that.
I mean,
good job.
I'll say this. I'll disagree with Dan a little bit and say that I'll watch Batman and Robin 10 times before I watch this again.
Me too.
Well, fair enough. I'd much rather watch this.
I'd watch Spider-Man 3 over this, honestly.
Yeah, I don't want to gang up on Dan. I really don't. And Dan, please don't see it this way, okay? I don't mean to gang up on you.
No, I realized that I was the only person in the world that had a positive experience with the movie to some degree. But that's fine.
Well, because when I say, again, this is not me ganging up on you at all, and I'm also not trying to go with the crowd. This is based on the experience I had. Now, I can't say that I wasn't affected by knowing that the early reviews were bad. I think it's impossible to not be affected by that. But I went trying to be positive. I mean, I kept saying maybe it's great despite that. You know what I mean? So like, I wasn't expecting that. Sort of was expecting that people had a reason for saying that. But I've liked crappy movies before. My thing is I kind of think it may be on just one viewing because of the dismal experience. I kind of think because it was such a train wreck and how it was put together, it maybe is in my head one of the worst superhero movies we've had. I'm kind of with these guys. I would, because the thing with Batman and Robin is that it at least knew what it was, like through and through. It's a stupid idea, but it knows it's a crappy cartoon. Like it knows that. This doesn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. I think that for me, this is infinitely more watchable than something like Batman and Robin. I'd much rather watch something like this that at least has some potentially interesting things in it. But it's just a taste thing. I think and again, I can't say that it's a good movie or anything. It's definitely a masterpiece.
I just can't coast on concept alone. I just can't.
No, neither can I. Like, I'm not saying that it's good because I like some of the concepts in it either. I just had a little bit more of a positive experience because of that, and I like some of the performances a little bit more than you guys seem to.
I don't know if it's possible to go sit next to Vincent Haskins with this and not feel like your spine is being ripped out of the back of your body. That's, if I'd gone by myself, I might have been a little bit more thoughtful. Can I say something else, dude? This is somewhat neither here nor there, and Dan might roll his eyes when I say this, because he clearly liked this movie more than me. You know what made me immediately stop taking it seriously at all? 5 minutes in, there was a thing in the score. We haven't talked score at all. The theme, this might have worked in a different movie. There's a theme that's kind of weaving its way in and out throughout this whole thing, that has the same like syllable beat count as the phrase Fantastic Four, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And I hear it, and it goes Fantastic Four, and I sang it to Vince the second time I heard it, and every time it came up, we could not help ourselves. We kept Fantastic Four, and what's really weird is that theme that seems to be the main thing permeating through the whole thing suddenly disappears in the third act, and they suddenly replace it with an entirely different theme. Now it's 6 syllables, and Vince leans over to me and he goes, "We are the Fantastic Four."
That's funny.
That was something that I actually kept noticing through the whole movie. Not that specifically, not that specifically, but I was paying attention to the music. And at the end, when the music was swelling and they were standing on the edge of the crater that had been created, like something epic had just happened, and I was kind of like, "Wait, is this the end of the movie? Like, really? That's where we're gonna swell the music?" Ugh.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there because I thought it was hilarious. I mean, like, one of the things that was tough about it was I wanted to riff track it as I was watching it. I mean, like, I didn't even know what was going to happen, and I kept coming up with jokes. I was trying not to, but they just kept coming to me. Bamboo, I did not expect this discussion to go this long. Yeah, neither did I. I'm going to look at some more comments because we haven't answered a whole lot of stuff, and I know the commenters have a lot to say. This has been a really interesting discussion because we've got somebody on a somewhat more positive end, which I think has changed the kind of the and I keep feeling like I got to walk on eggshells because I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt man's feelings if he liked it more than me.
No, don't worry about it. I mean, based on the reaction, I knew that I was in the very small minority in having anything positive to say about it because it seemed like the pitchforks and torches were coming out on the internet for this one. But that's fine.
Hey, I agree with a lot of your positives. I just don't think they begin to save it. I mean, like everything you've called a positive a lot of what you called a positive, I've agreed with, Dan.
Like I've said, multiple times, I don't think it saves the movie either. Yeah. Those are the things that I'm saying that I had a little bit more of a positive experience than you guys did with it.
Is it worse than Ninja Turtles?
No, Ninja Turtles was much worse in this movie, I thought.
See, I think even that's more watchable than this.
Oh, fair enough.
I still hate. I don't want to say that. I just like it hurts my throat to utter those words. I actually don't know if I agree with it. Okay, let's see if some more people said things in here. Is there anything else that we need to bring? There's probably all kinds of things we haven't talked about. We started getting really into the future of FF and stuff like that. Somebody bring up a topic we haven't talked about yet if you want. If you've got anything, and then I'm gonna, as you're doing that, look for some comments and hope that Dan doesn't I-beam me through the internet because I'm kind of scared of Dan right now.
I gotta say, I was really into what was happening with Victor through the first part of the movie, and I was expecting him to have this very Dr. Horrible, the world is ruined and I just have to rule it, but then he made a complete about face and was like, never mind, I'm gonna destroy it. And I don't know, that I think just everything that happened between that cut is where because I did like the first half of the movie. I was enjoying it. I was expecting to not like it, and despite that was enjoying the first part of the movie, just being like, okay, maybe it's just really different from the comics and that's why I'm enjoying it and other people didn't, but no.
I mean, I got kind of excited early on because I wanted this to be great. In those first few minutes, I'm like, yeah, this is really building to something. This is getting really, really exciting. I don't understand what people don't see in it. And then scenes start happening that don't make any sense 5 minutes in, and it loses me.
Riddler and
It wasn't quite 5 minutes in. Oh, sorry.
It was if you're Steve. Steve's pretty Steve.
Well, yeah, for me, it wasn't 5 minutes in. It was definitely once the 1 year later title card flashed up. The rest of the movie was just.
I think the moment we got to grown-up Reed Richards, it lost me completely.
I can see that.
I mean, I was still, willing to go with it. There were some, I thought, pretty eye-rolly, really, really typical early comic book movie things, like I said earlier, that kept really bugging me. We didn't talk about that last thing at the ending. This was probably obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I thought in the theater probably totally, a coincidence. But wow, it ends just like Age of Ultron, where like somebody's in the middle of a sentence and then they cutely cut it off. Oh no! We did it twice in the same year. Wow, that didn't work here at all. There was just so much lead up to it because it felt like that really irritating like okay, wink wink nudge nudge thing. For the audience, somebody said the word fantastic. Oh my goodness, that's a great thing. Oh no, please. I didn't like look at Doctor Doom over here.
That was awful.
I didn't like that. Okay, so his last name is Von Doom, but like he's not a doctor yet. And the only reason you would think to say that is because a script was made based on a Fantastic Four thing. No, there's a lot of stuff like that. This is a world I think. Now I said that he could get away with a costume maybe, but beyond that whole thing, just because he's so full of himself, the man's insane. He can do anything he wants to. He was there for a year. You don't know what the green stuff did to his head. I'm thinking that a lot of that kind of stuff, just like you can get away with in this particular movie. A lot of people will complain, oh, you didn't call them by their superhero names, and they didn't call themselves the Fantastic Four. I don't know. I think in this world, if you'd made a really good character piece, you could lose all that, and it would be kind of fine. Maybe. I'm saying that having, retroactively after watching this particular movie, I don't think you had to have the team ever named. I don't think you have to have a nod that says Doctor Doom. I don't think you need any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules for any of that stuff. I mean, like you always say, you can make anything work. You just had to make it work, right?
Yeah, but they didn't for me with that stuff.
No, with that stuff, yeah, I didn't think they did either.
Yeah. So you don't have to have that stuff. Could you, in this kind of trying to make it more serious and really in hard sci-fi? I guess that was really the idea. They didn't really do that, but like could you still have the names? Yeah, especially if you get there faster or there's a sequel. Because I feel like you could have this like really horror bent to it, and then they later on discover the cool things about having powers, and they create this world where there are superheroes, and then they would have names.
Did anybody else think that the inclusion of It's Clobber in Time was like the worst thing to happen?
Yes.
It's funny you said that.
I hated that.
Red Letter and Tilly's asked us if we would talk about that version of it. Now, if you did something about the fact that the Thing is kind of becoming a bully, like was it his brother that said that? I think. If you made it about how like they're turning Thing into a bully, and like that's why he's saying that, you could have maybe done something like that. But I don't know.
Well,
I think part of the problem also is we talk about how Doom's powers are so weirdly inconsistent, but after all of that, even though it was so badly done, after all of that action, all it takes to beat him is a punch to the face.
I know.
That's it.
But it's clobbering time.
Yeah, apparently.
But Steve, it's
and then,
clobbering
God,
time.
every line that was said in that scene was terrible. There is no victor, there is only doom. Like.
See, I like the delivery. It's just you need to get a Doctor Doom that is that grandiose and that full of himself to say something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it could have worked, but it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Did anyone else think Doctor Doom's hood looked stupid?
Yes, it looked awful.
That was the thing I laughed. As soon as he turned around and he pulled that up, I was like, you should not wear that.
He looks like he stole it off a homeless man, actually.
It was too round, like it didn't hang down and like drape over his head. I don't know, it looked weird.
This is so funny. A lot of people are saying things in the comments right before you guys bring them up. Dollar Bill 93. What did you think of the line? There is no victor, there is only doom. Now, why is it that I recognize that line? I feel like I've heard that, but is it a comic? Did one of the other movies do that? Is that in one of the other movies?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. But I felt like I remember in the theater thinking,
it's cliche enough.
They did that again. Is it wrong of me that I almost the very next day put in the Fantastic Four from the early 2000s just to see if I like it more?
No.
No, that's fair.
I really did. I mean, I almost did that. I mean, I still think like there's no story in the movie, but like. I like those characters more. I care a little bit more about some of their plights and stuff. Like,
yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, the more we like address every little thing about this movie. I think it might actually be one of the worst comic book films ever. And I didn't think that before. I thought it was a little bit better than the previous two, but no, I think it's much worse now.
Now, once again, Dan, you can have your own opinion. We're not ganging up on you.
I know. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, there's this guy named that's calling himself Victor Von Doom in the comments, and he keeps talking to people. So there's all these clever comments that are not about this movie. I have to wade through all of them, and there's something about Doom playing a trumpet, or a clarinet or something. I don't know what that's about.
Every time he types something, I keep having to fight not to laugh, like, on the stream.
Shay says, I thought that hallway scene was pretty cool and gave it some life toward the last act, but I get why it was too much for some people, although it fit with the tone of the film.
It was visually cool, but it made it so that all of us, like, Doom was, like, so OP, and then you get to the end and you're like, why is he not just literally killing them all in a split second?
Well, I think part of the problem too, yeah, exactly, is yeah, it's graphic, and I can understand the conventional logic of, and I don't always agree with this. Well, I don't know. Maybe some of the conventional logic is kind of, you're gonna have something that graphic, you need to do it earlier to get to let the audience know what kind of they're watching. But then sometimes you can make the tone consistent enough that you won't be so jarred by a thing like it, but you're jarred the way you should be. Anyway, the thing about that is the whole idea is to show us just how powerful he is. Powers he doesn't use at the end. Like it doesn't help us to tell us how powerful he is because he's not that powerful at the end.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, the only way that scene could have been worse is if Reed Richards took the ultimate nullifier out of his pocket and ended the movie that way.
I feel like this is a movie where you could almost get used to or get away with that sort of Deus Ex Machina.
Well, the thing is that they could have easily made it so that he had this amazing power to kill people instantly, but if they built his relationship more with the other 4 people, it could have been a really interesting like fight scene of them, like almost like Spider-Man talking to to the Green Goblin, and this sort of like, this isn't you, we know you, like all that kind of stuff, and I don't know, it could have worked had they had that, but instead he just decided to say snappy one-liners.
Yeah.
Just looking for some more comments as I'm scrolling up here, guys. Sorry.
Ren just said,
Lowe's still talking.
Yeah. Ren just said, oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think we might have missed the whole... Okay, I think Lowe's like 15 seconds behind. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I've got on the thing.
Go ahead.
Doom couldn't explode the Fantastic Four's heads because they have main character powers, and main character powers mean that they can't die.
I don't think he's trying that hard, although it's hard to tell. I think it's important to note that there's not a whole lot of a performance going on. Right, like, I can't really read the green eyes and tell you what he's thinking, so that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, the voice was kind of... William Parcell, do you think Trank will avoid big-budget films after this and go back to small... I think he'll have to. I don't know if anybody will have him for a big-budget movie after this.
He's not attached to anything right now. A lot of people saying he doomed his career after putting out that tweet, but I guess we'll see.
Dan Shea agrees with you. He has exactly your opinion, it sounds like, when he says, I probably like this more than most, but I wouldn't give it a positive review. It is exactly what you said.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad there's one other person out there in the universe. Let's go explore together with a family.
I don't think the director has ruined his career. I mean, plenty of other people have distanced themselves and publicly denounced projects that they were in before and have found work afterwards. It might take them a year or two, but...
Yeah, but being fired from something as big as Star Wars makes you kind of wonder how long it's going to take him.
And he did climb the ladder really quickly. Chronicle was a really small, almost indie thing, and then he just suddenly gets attached to Star Wars and Fantastic Four, and both of those things don't pan out.
Yeah, I think Chronicle was like the first movie of note that he directed. I mean, he probably did like stuff in film school, but anything that received like major release, Chronicle was like the first thing.
He did like an interview with Kevin Smith recently and talked about how his career started basically on YouTube, and then he made Chronicle, and then he got bumped right up to this.
That's exactly right. Well, hasn't he worked with like Max Landis?
I think so, yeah. It's a really interesting interview if people haven't listened to it. It's on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman podcast.
Because I thought
wasn't Max Landis attached to Chronicle?
Yeah, that's what it was. And didn't they together make that thing that was making fun of Death of Superman? I really hated that thing because I love Death of Superman. They had some good points, but
Yeah, I think so.
I love that video.
that hurt my feelings. And then Dan's got to review that with me and be like kind of fair to it, and then later on be like, yeah, I don't like that. It's awful.
I didn't say it was awful.
No, I know, but I'm trying to make you look bad retroactively.
Okay.
No, I'm not. You didn't say it was awful. But it was really funny because you were like, maybe this adaptation is better than the comic. I was like, well, I thought the comic was okay, and you're like, and I thought you thought that after we reviewed it. You're like, yeah, no, but you can do better. Yeah, okay, all right. That makes me cry though. All right, well, that's it's gonna be a wrap it up for us. Anybody got some final thoughts?
I think it's kind of hilarious that next to Fantastic Four, we had a limited 10 theater release for a Dragon Ball Z movie, and it's infinitely better than this, and it made a lot more money.
Did it really?
It did.
Oh,
It made a record for anime films in the U.S. And it's a Dragon Ball Z movie. It's nothing but people fighting for 90 minutes, and it's better than this. It's better on a character and story level in every way, and that's hilarious.
Dan, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I don't know that it's worth the ticket price of going to see it in the movie theater. I think it's worth watching at some point. You're not gonna have your eyeballs burned out, despite what some people have been saying on the internet. But I don't know. I'd say if it's on TV at some point, watch it. If you can rent it for cheap, maybe watch it. It's not something you need to rush out and see. I don't know. I found some redeeming qualities in it. It was just really disappointing because I thought it had a lot of potential as a project. But I don't know. Hopefully, whatever we get Fantastic Four next is actually good because that's something I really want to see be good someday at some point.
Lo, what are your final thoughts?
My favorite part of this movie was the Deadpool trailer.
I agree.
Well, on that note, everybody thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed our live spoilercast on the Fantastic Four reboot. Thanks everybody who left comments, and we appreciate your thoughts and your amusing and insightful comments. And we will see you again next week for another episode of Primetime Crisis Live, and we'll do another spoilercast down the road on something that comes out that we feel like the need to do a whole spoiler cast on. And we'll be back here pretty soon in a few weeks with all of the new big TV shows for the fall. And let me tell you, there's a lot of them, and it's going to be nuts when we get to Primetime Crisis Live. So look forward to that and more on Geekvolution. I'm Captain Logan. Thanks so much for my panel, to my panel. Wow, it's late. Now I'm using wrong words. Thanks so much to my panel tonight. I really appreciated all of the discussion, and despite the fact that we did not all completely agree with things, we were all respectful, and it's always fun to argue. So thanks a lot to Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
To Beware the Steve Baxi.
Thanks everybody for joining us as late as it is.
And the Curious Low.
There is no Curious Low, there is only Lauren.
That's awesome.
We'll see. Master, Gatekeeper. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.